One of my favorite journalism lessons, and I remember this like it was yesterday. It was after an NFL game, and there was a very respected journalist that was going back and forth with a player after he assessed his performance, and I guess the player had caught wind of it, and the player was upset that the guy had kind of been a little bit critical of him, despite the fact that he didn't make any monumental mistakes. And at the end of the day, the team came away from the W. And I remember the journalist looking at the player who at one time was a guy who was fighting to make a roster, then a guy that was fighting to make us get a second contract. And he basically just said, do you want me to hold you to the standard that I used to hold you to when you first got into the league? Or do you want me to hold you to the standard that you're currently at and what the expectations are for you now? And I remember the player kind of losing his train of thought and struggling to even counter what the guy was saying, because he kind of agreed. And that's how here on SNL Reaction Monday with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots, that's kind of how I look at this Texans game. A win is a win. Nobody's going to apologize for winning in the NFL. But after the game, I kind of felt like, this team can be even better than what they were. And this can be kind of a teachable win. And you hear Stefon Diggs, you hear DeMeco Ryans say that. And that's kind of how I come away from this thing, because the standard is high. And I think when you win like that, I think it shows why people are so excited about this team, Cody.
When they're a good team, they're going to win games like that. They're going to have close games, and they're going to be in a dogfight to the end with a team that's pretty talented and was a couple of plays away from winning the AFC South, just like the Texans did a year ago. When they're a great team, we'll know, because games like that won't happen. And they'll keep a team like the Colts at arm's length for a lot longer, and they'll stay at arm's length. Like, it won't get close. It won't get to the point where Anthony Richardson's hitting a bomb late in the game on his last pass of the game to get the Colts into a position to score a touchdown to bring it within 2. They won't miscue on some things to let the Colts really get some momentum and get back in the game. They're a good team, and they finished last year as a good team with the potential to be a great team. And they start this year basically at the same spot, because a year ago, basically in the first 6 weeks of the season, they lose that game. But you saw the progression over 2023, and they were a much better team by the end of the year. And the starting point that they have here in 2024, I mean, my God, it gives you a really, really high part of the mountain to see where they can go, because they're starting so high, and they're basically starting where they were at the end of last year. A good team that has the potential to be great on any given day. I believe by the end of the season, they're going to have some great performances where they do keep a team at arm's length. They're able to kind of jab, keep that team from getting close and keeping games close. And that yesterday was one of the exciting parts coming out of that one, is like, oh, okay, they won. There's a lot more to this team than what we saw yesterday. And the stuff that was an issue yesterday, none of it's glaring like, oh my God, they can't do something to help fix it. Like, there's a lot left to this Texans team, and the excitement and the potential development in 2024. Woo! They could go some really fun places if it clicks.
Well, the other thing is this: the one thing that they needed that was non-negotiable, and we can argue and we can go back and forth over whether this is sustainable and whether or not this is something that you want to ask Joe Mixon to do. But the one thing that they've needed more than anything is they need a run game, because the run game not only makes the offense better, it increases your margin for error. And margin for error has been the 3 words that I've thrown out more than anything the last couple of days, because the reality is there were times when this team was even good where one first half mistake will completely throw things off to where you lose a game. We'll just go back to the time before DeMeco Ryans, the last time they had a, quote, good football team. Bill O'Brien's decision to not go for it on 4th down and not go for the jugular and not keep the momentum up, it sucked the life out of that game, and you never recovered from that first half decision. What happened at the end of the first half yesterday? I mean, that was a 3-point difference. That's the spread. Like, that's literally the spread. They left 3 points on the board, and they were able to overcome that. You give up 3 explosive plays to the Colts, which is really all that you really gave up on defense. and you're able to still win the game. You know why? Because you have the ball for 40 minutes, because you're physically dominating the other team. So that's the one thing that I will say is the most encouraging, is the thing that I think they needed the most was a physical run game, because that improves the entire team and it increases the margin for error. We at least saw that, and I hope it is sustainable, but that is as good of a start in an area that they needed more than anything as we could possibly ask for.
Last year, 22nd in rushing yards per game. Now, you have an elite offense. Sometimes you can handle not having as many rushing yards per game, but 29th in yards per carry and 31st in first downs via rushing the ball. Yesterday, if they needed something, they could turn around and hand it to their running back. And not only was he going to get the job done, the 5 big uglies up front were going to get it done. And they went to him over and over and over and over again. The post-game speech, DeMeco Ryans like, we wanted 4 yards per carry. That's Joe Mixon's basically his average from last year. They wanted 4 yards per carry. Joe Mixon rattled off 5 yards plus per carry. And he was doing it inside, outside. It's not like he had one giant run that supported this and skewed he was popping off 5, 6 yards per carry, and they started to lean on the Colts, which is something that they didn't have the ability to do last year. They would pass late in games to try to put teams away, and if they can consistently turn to Joe Mixon in this rushing attack to put teams away, to lean on teams for good stretches, I think a great example of the team sustaining after a mistake. They have the punt blocked. Joe Mixon goes in for the touchdown Jonathan Taylor goes in on the touchdown on the very next play. The ensuing drive, previously Texans teams would have panicked. It'd have been a 3 and out. They'd have punted the ball and the other team's feeling it. The crowd's back into it. No, they went on a 7-minute drive, methodical, beat the Colts up.
7.5.
Methodical, beat the Colts up, punched it in with Joe Mixon. And it's like, okay.
Well,
very different situation.
And the thing about that is, though, they did that, but as a result of giving up a big play after that, CJ Stroud still had to pull a rabbit out of the hat on 3rd and 12. And it's great that you have a quarterback that's capable of doing that. But in a perfect situation, once this team starts gelling and once this team starts putting it together, you want to get to a point where you're not asking CJ Stroud to do that. And that's where this team goes from being a good team to being a great team. I think this was a teachable win. And I think more times than not, if a coach can get a teachable win for himself as well, because what happened at the end of the first half wasn't great. But if you can get that, that's excellent. That's excellent. In 2018, maybe even in 2019, the Texans were we won the game, doesn't matter type of squad. That's kind of sound. It might have been impersonating someone there, not sure. But I don't think this is a we won the game, it doesn't matter squad anymore. And then that's the beauty. That's what separates a Kansas City. That's what separates Baltimore. That's what separates a good team from a great team. And I think this team has great potential because we saw it yesterday. Because in many instances, and I'm not hammering this to focus on the negative. I'm hammering this because it's a beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful feeling to be able to sit here and not lose sleep or be pissed off going into work. And you all know what it is. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. It is the SNL Reaction Monday with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots. But you know what it's like when you go back to that one moment and you say, man, if they would have just done this, then they would have won the game. Now I got to wait a week for them to get the dub. Like there were a lot of moments in this game where in the past, even with some good teams, a lot of times when we talk about this Texans team and we gas them up, we're looking back at the dark days of Nick Caserio. We're looking at 2022 and 2021, and we're saying, well, at least it's not that. No, I'm going to where they were a fringe squad, where they were a divisional round quality squad trying to get to the conference championship. I'm going more 18 to 19, 17, 18, 19 with Watson, and that the inability to get 3 points at the end of the first half. would cost you. Kenyon Green coming out of the 2-minute warning, getting a
God.
5-minute, a 5-yard false start on the first play afterwards. You wouldn't have CJ Stroud bail you out and keep his head composed. When it looks like you have a 2-possession lead and Joe Mixon's dancing and everyone's pumped up, and I'm sure if you're at a bar, you're ordering shots for the table because you think it's over, and then all of a sudden, the very next play, Richardson finds the end zone very, very quickly, and all of a sudden you're having to sweat a little bit. Like, those are the moments in the past where you look back and they ruin your whole week, and now it's just like hey guys, good W, we won, we're proud of you, but hey, we got to improve those things because not everyone's going to be the Indianapolis Colts. That is the beauty of being able to look back at these types of moments and do so while having your alphabet soup in front of you, and it's all W's. There's no L's in that alphabet soup today. It's all W's or whatever the hell the cereal is with letters. That's the beauty of this.
Well, you talk about good team and they pull it out and they have great elements, and that's why they're able to pull it out. CJ Stroud, the Nico Collins, and it's just one of the best throws we're going to see all season. It's week 1. I mean, he planted through the rocket, and I still don't know exactly how Nico got down in bounds. One knee is 2 feet, as John Madden would always say. But a great team, to your point, Landry, a great team operates that final drive and the entire second half with 5 more points on the board. A great team converts that 2-point conversion early on. A great team gets a field goal at the end of the first half, and you got 5 more points to play with in the second half. And maybe that changes the way you'd operate some of these things. Maybe you're not throwing your hands up in disgust because the left guard false starts out of the 2-minute warning because hey, okay, all right, that guy's not great over there at the quarterback spot. So if we have to punt the ball, we're going to feel okay about it. Because if they had to have punted yesterday, I don't trust Anthony Richardson's going to go down and get a touchdown, but I watched Atlanta last year. I watched Carolina last year. They just had to get to a certain point on the field, and then the other guy was going to kick the ball or run the timeout. At Carolina, it wasn't a kick, but Desmond Ridder moved down the field against the defense last year and scored a touchdown or got him into field goal range. So it's like, if you had to punt, I wouldn't have felt great. If you had 5 more points and the Colts were going down to try to tie it, I'd have felt really good about the Texans' chances. It's like a great team has 5 more points to play with there in the second half. But elements of a great team, you trust the quarterback. He puts his foot in the ground. He gets you 13 yards when you need 12, and it's a first down. Joe Mixon a couple rushes, and then you're kneeling the ball in Indianapolis. See you later. And instead of the loud house, it's the Stroud house.
Oh, look at you. You had that one in your pocket all day. Good Lord.
I've been sitting on that one for 16 hours.
I should have left it under there. It is SNL Reaction Monday. Cody Stoots, Landry Locker. We're going to do this every week. And we got a big announcement next week about this as well. So be on the lookout for that. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along. This is really all you need. This is going to be all you need when it comes to the Texans reacting, looking ahead, etc. I want to go on a little bit of a tangent, if you will, because you and we embrace all aspects of football. I don't pretend to be a film watching guy. I don't pretend to be a guy that's breaking down the all 22. But I do play fantasy football. I do embrace fantasy football. I like fantasy football, but I got to tell you, this is why people hate fantasy football. What we watched yesterday. This is why people hate fantasy football, because if you look at the quarterback scores from yesterday in fantasy football, Anthony Richardson was actually better than CJ Stroud in fantasy football. I think in most leagues he outscored him by a few points, could be a little bit more depending on if passing touchdowns count as 6 in your league. This is why some folks dislike fantasy football. We're going to break this down, and we always do. We try to get into the gray area and everything else. But I do think this game was almost as simple as your quarterback's elite, theirs isn't. And I know that they made the really, really big plays, but if you just look at the plays that CJ Stroud made versus what Anthony Richardson was made, you really don't have to go far. Like if you're one of those people who rewatches games, I think you can watch that first possession and you can kind of tell the difference between a CJ Stroud and an Anthony Richardson. And it's funny because we think of Anthony Richardson as the guy that makes the extraordinary play, and CJ Stroud's the guy that has the ability to make the basic play. But when you win games or when you set tones, a lot of times it's as a result of your ability to do things that maybe aren't considered your elite traits. And on the very first drive of the game, the Indianapolis Colts, they were obviously trying to set the tone. They go forward on 4th and 1. And Anthony Richardson sails it over Adonai Mitchell's head. I don't know why you're running that play on 4th and 1. A little bit interesting, kind of like maybe give him a chance to use his legs or use Jonathan Taylor, but he sails it over the head of Adonai Mitchell. Texans on their possession, they go forward on 4th and 1. CJ Stroud slips, and he's able to complete a pass from his butt to Brevin Jordan, which is kind of like the spectacular play. And the Texans come away with 3 points. The Colts come away with 0 points. You look at some of the third downs that CJ converted, the one at the end of the third going into the fourth, where he goes to the side, he throws it across his body to Nico Collins. I think that was before the Mixon touchdown. And then you go back to the first play after the 2-minute warning, after the false start, the throw to Nico Collins. The ability to make those plays is really, you can make a case, is the difference in the game, and it's the thing that matters the most. The Texans have an elite quarterback, the Colts don't.
The fact that the Colts trusted him in so many situations when they've got a guy who, going into this game, 6 games, 900 yards of offense against the Houston Texans. And I get that the Texans defense was doing a good job against Jonathan Taylor, and they ultimately had a successful day against Jonathan Taylor. But I felt like there was maybe the Colts put too much on Anthony Richardson and treated him like he was an established young quarterback in CJ Stroud's zip code. He's not. They put too much in his hands at times. Now, obviously, look, he slips. He throws, one of the plays of the week that hits Alec Pierce for that 60-yard touchdown. It's like 58 yards in the air, on a rope after he slipped and had to move out of the pocket. Like, that's a great play. He misses so many simple plays. Like, there was a point, Landry, in the game where he had hit more Texans defenders over the middle than he had Colts players over the middle. And then he finally threw a rocket to some guy none of us have ever heard of. That guy takes it 50 plus to the house. And that was a great play, but he's so inconsistent. And the consistency, and sometimes it's going to feel boring with how easy Stroud makes things look. Like, never take that for granted, because there's so many guys across the league that can't be consistent, that can't be boring and be productive. And Anthony Richardson's so far away from that right now. Look, he's going to have the dynamic plays, but how many times did he miss Adonai Mitchell on a play that most quarterbacks hit? Like, he missed him on, Mitchell destroys Stingley and is running wide open to the end zone, and Richardson's, 2 yards ahead of him and 3 yards to the right of him. He missed him on the play where Kamari Lassiter got a penalty because Adonai Mitchell, beat him it was over on the left side of the field. And then Richardson just missed him. He almost threw one to Azeez Al-Shire. That's going to keep him up at night. Shire dropped the interception.
He was pissed.
Richardson cannot be consistent and boring. Stroud can be consistent, boring, and productive. And then when he has to be spectacular, he can hit a big play to Nico Collins down the middle. He can make that throw that 9 quarterbacks in the league can make right there on the sideline to get that first down on 3rd and long outside of the, coming out of the 2-minute warning. Like, he can go and do that. Richardson can't, and you saw it constantly throughout the game.
Yeah, you saw that, and you also saw something that was kind of difficult for me on the other side of the rock. By the way, SNL Reaction Monday. This is going to be a consistent thing throughout the season. So be sure to join myself, Cody Stoots. We put some grades out. The other thing is that, and a lot of people are upset with Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward's getting a lot of criticism for giving up the deep ball. I know he was with Aaron Wilson. And he was kind of asked about that, and he basically said that he's got to be better, he's got to make more plays, and he's got to figure it out. It's hard for me though. Like, when we look at the defense, it's hard to fully judge a defense in 20 minutes. There's 3 plays that you point to, and it's kind of easy to spot whose fault it is on those 3 plays. But for me, like with the defense, despite the fact they gave up 3 plays that were over half a football field. I kind of like the fact that they kept Jonathan Taylor in check. Like if you told me, okay, they're going to not give up the big play, but Jonathan Taylor's going to gash him for 180 yards like he did in week 18. I almost feel like keeping Jonathan Taylor in check automatically means that the defense as a whole, not giving up the big play, the defense as a whole, I think did an okay job.
Oh, that's how I would describe it. It's an okay job. When you put it all together, it's an okay job. Front seven had a really good day against Jonathan Taylor, and even Anthony Richardson. He made some plays that, okay, he stiff arms Henry To'o. To'o probably doesn't make that play 9 times out of 10. So do many other linebackers don't make that play. Okay, Jalen Petrie, you probably would have loved to have that juke back where Richardson was, juked him out of his jockstrap. But to stop Jonathan Taylor like that and to really point to you can point to what needs to get fixed on those 3 big plays. Like, I mean, the first Pierce touchdown, like that's just going to happen because you're not always going to have your elite pass rushers in there. And even then, like the quarterback just made a great play. Like it's 2024. Every quarterback can make a great play. Almost every quarterback can make a great play in some portion of the game. And Richardson slips, moves away. I mean, Derek Barnett walked that guy at right tackle into where Richardson was supposed to be, but he's a mobile guy. He's drifted out of the pocket and used the cannon to get it deep down there. Like Jimmy Ward was there on the second Pierce one. The Doolin one, I don't know. Massive breakdown. Just
I don't know what happened on that one.
Perfect time. Murray can't make the tackle there at the end. Like that one feels like the most easily correctable one. And also now, hey, don't let the one-trick ponies beat you. That's all Alec Pierce does. I don't know if you heard this on the broadcast. He ran more go routes than anybody in the NFL last year. Like, how do you let that happen? Well, that's not going to happen next time. You're going to have somebody ready for the role player who does exactly what he is supposed to do. And so Pierce, hey, he's a deep threat. He just runs straight. Okay, we're going to have Jimmy Ward take an extra couple steps back. He's going to be more in vicinity next time. Like it's correctable stuff. It's not like you can sit there and you're worried that, hey, this guy's not any good. He can't cover anybody, can't do this. I feel like these were correctable mistakes that they allowed in the passing game. And there's only a handful of quarterbacks that you're going to play this season that can do some of those things that Richardson did. Now, the scary part is they're going to do some of the easy, consistent stuff way better than him.
On the comments, super chats go to the front. We're gonna Aaron Wilson. Shout out to Aaron Wilson, KPRC. We'll hear what Jimmy Ward had to say about his performance. Aaron was working the locker room. Check out Aaron's work on Twitter and at KPRC. He does his thing. He keeps you covered, and he's on the scene. So we'll hear from Jimmy Ward in a sec. Shout out to Aaron Wilson for working the locker room. It does seem like the safeties are kind of getting a lot of criticism. Moman 44 says, Landry, you said Eric Murray looked good. That dude is terrible. I don't know that I said he looked better than I expected, but I think this was I also beat to death the snowball effect of Jalen Petrie's new role. And now Eric Murray is your starting safety. I never completely felt comfortable about that. I think when you grade Eric Murray proportionally as a reserve safety, he did look good in camp. He didn't look bad. But I don't feel comfortable with Eric Murray as your deep safety. That was one of the things that I think needs to be watched. And while you feel good about the running game, I think safety is a concern. Now the question is this, Cody. A lot of times whenever big plays happen, you chalk it down to, okay, well, that's gimmicky. That's easy to prevent. You'll be able to go to the drawing board and prevent that from happening. I don't know that that's going to be the case with this squad. I do think that could be kind of the Achilles heel potentially with this team is vulnerability with the deep ball, specifically at the safety position. And here's the other thing about this. And if we're going to go, we'll go beyond the box score in a second with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots. We like to look at beyond the box score. Sometimes that works in favor of the players. Sometimes there's a deeper element, But when we go beyond the box score, it was actually worse in the secondary than the actual result. You just kind of touched on it. But I mean, Derek Stingley should probably be on the highlight tape of Adonai Mitchell right now, as should Kamari Lassiter.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, there were two really bad moments by them. I would tell you this: if you're worried about Eric Murray, I'm surprised that there was as much Kalen Bullock right away as there was. I knew they liked him and they spoke positively about him, and he had a nice camp and the growth and the things you hear the coaches talk about rookies over the course of camp. He played the exact same amount of snaps as Eric Murray. I mean, we are very close in the next month or so to Kalen Bullock playing more snaps than Eric Murray. They're trusting that guy, and then he's your center fielder. He's playing a lot more. He's maybe better than what you see from Murray on a consistent basis. So that is something to pay attention to in the safety room going forward. And that's not going to happen to Jimmy Ward a bunch this season. Like the Alec Pierces of the world aren't going to always be running past Jimmy Ward.
Well, there was one play where he didn't really run past him. He just flat out mossed him.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's a little bit different than running past that. And I think that's probably the one that concerns people as much as if Alec Pierce is going up and mossing you, then what is, a guy who's not just a one-trick pony or a go route guy going to do?
Yeah, there's definitely a concern that, okay, Alec Pierce does that. What's DJ Moore going to do? What's Justin Jefferson going to do? And so on and so forth down the road. But if Jimmy Ward's 5 steps back, there's no mossing because Jimmy Ward's coming in to, knock the ball away. Like you get mossed because the guy got behind you. If you're even with him when the ball's coming down, you knock it away. Or you break up the pass. And one thing about the beyond the box score, this is always very strange to me how the box score doesn't count this. Eric Murray's tackle on Jonathan Taylor on the 2-point conversion,
man,
that doesn't show up in the box score. It just counts a failed 2-point conversion, but he made a tough tackle that kept 2 points off the board. And if he didn't make that play, the Colts have 2 more, and obviously your margin is 2 points.
Yeah, so, and it kind of wiped away DeMeco's decision early on to go for 2, which I don't have a problem with. I don't have like a passionate take on, and I try not to deal in hindsight. Over years, like when you look back at moves, I think hindsight's beneficial. But like in coaching decisions, I think there's certain coaching decisions. Like immediately, I said, okay, go for it on 4th before the Diggs thing, but. As far as, extending the lead to 7 versus just taking the points and going to 6, I don't care. But the Texans stopping them on their 2-point conversion just kind of wiped it away to where it didn't really matter.
That might have worked if the turf was in better shape. It looked like Joe Mixon slipped and the whole operation of that was off. I probably wouldn't have run the football in that spot. Maybe they're thinking the Colts weren't going to expect them to run the football. I probably wouldn't have run it. I probably would have thrown it. But I didn't have one feeling strong one way or the other. Go for it or don't, or kick it. That felt like they're a good enough team. Whatever the result of this is, they'll make it right later in the game, and ultimately they did. So that's one of those early on, like it could sink a team that's not good. Hey, you're sitting there and you're 1-point margin difference. You should have kicked. It could sink a team that's not as good as the Texans. I knew they were going to make it right later in the game.
Yeah, and I think Stingley's still an elite corner. He just got burned on one play. So
guys, cornerbacks get beat. Like you're going to see guys get beat at the cornerback spot. Happens. That is the nature of the position. And wide receivers have never been better. Like there are more guys that are capable of burning a corner than there have ever been in the history of the NFL. So guys are going to get beat at the cornerback spot. It happens. It comes with the territory.
Let's hear from Jimmy Ward. This is from Aaron Wilson, KBRC. Jimmy Ward, not his best game. What did Aaron Wilson have?
Gets his first NFL pick. You remember yours. What do you think of this young man?
Man, I think he's a ball hawk, and I think we drafted him. I think Nico did a great job by drafting him, and he does what he does best. He's going to find that ball.
DeMeco said he felt like there were some really plays that should have been made. Not real specific, but just what was your perspective on what happened to some of the big plays?
I feel like I had a couple of plays that I feel like I could have made. If I was better at it, probably would have scored a few times. So I feel like that's something I got to go in and feel room and I got to correct.
It's week 1, right?
Yes, sir.
And Richardson, I know that people talk about completion percentage and all that stuff, but this guy physically is so talented. What does it mean to beat a quarterback like that? That's probably no one's like him athletically or that big.
It means everything. Like just to be in that win column. It's the first game of the season, and we on the road game. So he went out there, he made some plays. His guys, offensive guys, made some plays, and we ended up making one more play, he won the game.
I didn't see 180 rushing yards this time from Jonathan Taylor.
Well, that was where the goal. Stop the rush and make them one dimension, and we just got to play better on that.
All right, there you go.
So
that's Jimmy Ward with Aaron Wilson, KPRC. On the message board, Techno Stone, the Traveler. Go ahead, Stoots.
you can only use it's week 1 if I don't see it later in the season.
Right.
Like that excuse only becomes retroactively okay if I don't see Rome Odunze run past Jimmy Ward Sunday night. If I don't see Jordan Addison, 13 days from now run past Jimmy Ward. If I don't see consistently guys who are not the top guy run right past Jimmy Ward, it's like that'll be a retroactive, like, oh, okay, yeah, he cleaned it up. But the concern people have is that Jimmy Ward's not good enough. They had a chance to upgrade the position. And oh, by the way, Jimmy Ward's not going anywhere, guys. Like, they're not putting him on the bench in week 2, week 3. They just paid him. He's here through next year too. Oh, yeah. Like, he's not going anywhere. He has to get better. So I hope that we can make it's kind of week 1. I got to be better. Like, you can retroactively make that an okay explanation, but it's not good enough for Monday morning. It's not going to make people feel better on Reaction Monday. I'll be better next time. Like, the people are worried that there is going to be a next time and that you're not going to be better. That's what people are worried about.
And that's the thing is there's a different standard. It's the way I started this thing. That there's a different standard. There's a different there's a different vibe, and expectations are higher than they've been maybe ever. And you can come away with the win saying, okay, we got to clean these things up. Technostone, the Traveler. If we can't play the deep ball, we won't be able to compete with teams like the Chiefs, Dolphins, Ravens, or Lions. I'm just saying the secondary is suspect. And I look, that was not a good performance by the secondary at all. And I want to go beyond the box score, Cody. And you can check this out. I think you sent this out today. Grades.
So Landry's grades will be the day after every Texans game. They're going to be on Houston Football. You can read them. Obviously, he's going to talk about them here on the YouTube channel, but hey, you're in a public restroom. You don't want to have the volume all the way up. You can just read the grades right there on Houston Football. Free for everybody to read. We're not putting it behind the paid subscribers. You can just click right there on Houston Football, and Landry's grades are going to be there for you to read.
Yeah, let's start with some stuff positive with the offensive line. Now, you allowed 4 sacks. The offensive line did allow 4 sacks. CJ Stroud extended some plays. And the worst penalty to me was probably the Kenyon Green. I think the Kenyon Green penalty right out of the 2-minute warning was probably the worst penalty on the offensive line. I set aside that there's going to be a few false starts. There's going to be a few offensive line penalties. So outside of that one, I really wasn't frustrated. I think we're going to look, and Laramie Tunsil was called for 2 false starts. And I'm not a Laramie apologist, but one of them, one of them, there was going to be a delay of game, and he was actually the only offensive lineman that was on time. It was, the ball was not going to get snapped, so it was either moved in or get the delay of game. So I don't really chalk that one down to Laramie Tunsil. There was another one where this had to have been on Juice Scruggs or someone else, because every offensive lineman moved except Juice Scruggs. They could have called it on Mason. They could have called it on Kenyon Green, but instead, false start, number 78 offense. So looking beyond the box score, I know that we heard Tunsil's name twice on false starts. I don't necessarily think that both of those were his fault. Also on the offensive line, when a lot of times you judge them by sacks, I think the run blocking, and I'm not going to pride myself on being a watch the tape, but Joe Mixon mentioned it. The run blocking was elite. So I do think that needs to be mentioned, because when you look in the box score, all you're going to see is false starts, penalties, sacks. I want to give the offensive line some flowers and say that they played beyond the box score.
I'm with you. Look, the rushing attack and how well they played, and the success they had inside, the success they had outside. It's not even like they were one-dimensional and it could only go one way or one direction when it came to the rushing attack. Like that propped up a lot of the. There was some really messy stuff around, CJ's feet, and they got sacked, or he got sacked 4 times. 3 of those sacks came on third down, which is just. You can't have the money down be where you don't block. One of them, I don't know how 3 guys block Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner comes unblocked. Like, if you're looking around and 2 other guys are blocking Grover Stewart, go find DeForest Buckner. He's running at the quarterback. Like, that was somebody messed up terribly on that one. It seems like it might have been Shaq Mason on that. They had that one play where nobody blocked anybody, and the Colts had a sack party at CJ Stroud's location. So a couple of those moments from the pass blocking standpoint, they're going to want back. And there was some heat. They heated up CJ Stroud. He sort of released some of the pressure. You talked about it earlier. And you tweeted this, and it felt very apparent, like the Mahomesian drift, keep things going.
Yeah.
And then
Across the body, where if a quarterback throws across the body, start drinking, because the announcer's going to say you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that unless you're CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
That's not how they teach it.
But you got to be sick every time you see CJ Stroud start to drift if you're the Colts, because he could just drift, extend a play, and then he makes a big play. We saw it with Nico in 8 months ago. We saw it with Nico on the 3rd and long, to convert yesterday. So Stroud can escape some of that pressure and take some of it off, but they've got to pass block much better. They're going to face better edge guys, and that's where I get really concerned, is edge guys that they face making interior guys even better. We saw what Buckner brings to the table yesterday. He's elite already at the interior. I'm just worried for a long, something to monitor. If a good edge guy can heat up Tunsil and can heat up Titus Howard and make average interior guys even better than they already are, that's where I'd be worried pass blocking for this offense.
We're going beyond the box score here on Reaction Monday. Shout out to Mike 1 for the generous super chat. My goodness, Texans will win the effing Super Bowl this year. Mike, you are my Super Bowl champion. You are my real MVP.
Look at
Shout
that.
out to you, mi amigo. My goodness, I've never loved teddy bears so much.
This is
Thank you very much.
That's the superest of super chats.
That is the superest.
Wow.
We're going beyond the box score. Here, drinks on me.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah. They win the Super Bowl. I got a Houston football care package for you, and first drinks on me, second drinks on Landry, third drinks on me.
So the quarterback box score, beyond the box score, I just think this needs to be mentioned as we go down the positions and we go beyond the box score. Anthony Richardson got more fantasy points than CJ Stroud. That is absolute silliness. CJ Stroud was light years better than Anthony Richardson. That really doesn't even need to be elaborated on. Running backs. I want to go beyond the box score with the running backs. And I'm going to bring up Dameon Pierce here, Cody. You look at Dameon Pierce, he only had a few carries, but he did what he was asked to do. Now, I would love for him to be capable of doing more. Maybe that's the case as the season goes on. I don't want to see Joe Mixon getting 30 carries every game, but I will say this. He gave Joe Mixon a very valuable piece of rest on the sideline. Joe Mixon was able to go out there on the side, get some water, chill. And Dameon Pierce, you want to talk about physicality, you want to talk about making your presence felt. He goes out there, 7 yards, 6 yards, chains moved, sprint back to the sidelines and let that workhorse wearing number 28 go back out there. Beyond the box score, you'll look at the box score and say Dameon Pierce just had a few carries. I thought he kept the physicality going, and I thought he did a really nice job of moving the chains while Joe Mixon went and got him some water en route to the 30 carries for over 5 yards of pop.
Yeah, you don't see Gabe starter a breather in the box score, but that's exactly what Pierce did. Here's a couple more running back things that don't show up. It is Joe Mixon was so close to breaking a huge play. Like, he had some big plays and some explosive plays on the ground, but I can think of 6, maybe 7 runs where he was one guy makes one more block, or he makes one more move, or he was so close to just taking one and making a house call on a couple of those. And that doesn't show up in the box score. And all of a sudden, if it's 150, 9 rushing yards and it's 26 carries because he broke 3 big ones, you start to take a little bit of wear and tear off of the totality of what Mixon brings to the table. He pass blocked really well, and Dare Ogunbowale killed 2 guys in pass blocking as well. That doesn't show up in the box score, but I bet you they're showing that on film on Monday, and they're showing, hey, this is how we pick up a blitz, guys. And Ogunbowale just throwing his body with reckless abandon into the Colts defenders pass blocking. So there's some more beyond the box score nerdy stuff for you.
Beyond the box score, Bobby Slowick, he likes to run reverses. When Joe Mixon's running the ball the way that he's running the ball, you're able to run reverses. The Tank Dell, the reverse that went a lot deeper than usual. It was almost like they kind of reversed it damn near past the line of scrimmage. You got to credit Joe Mixon for that. I think beyond the box score, the reverse, which is frustrating, much to the dismay of many people, it is made possible beyond the box score because of Joe Mixon.
That's one of our, hey, what can Bobby Slowick do? What's going to look better on offense because they run the football well and because they have a rushing attack that people have to respect. Some of the gimmicky things to get you a couple extra rushing yards are going to perform better because people are trying to account for Joe Mixon and be prepared for that rushing attack. And so, I mean, the Colts were completely fooled by the Tank Dell play. The Stefon Diggs rush, it wasn't as successful, but completely fooled by the Tank Dell play, Indianapolis. And in large part, that's because you're successful on the ground. Throughout the course of the game with traditional runs, you can do something goofy and fancy, and it pays off like that.
Dietology with the super. Shout out to you, my friend. Thanks for swarming the super chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Get Nico Collins a clown mask every time he goes to Lucas
Yeah,
Oil.
he's becoming the T.Y. Hilton for the Colts. He's becoming what T.Y. Hilton was for Colts fans. That's just kind of the reality of the situation right now. Jerome Kicks asks, what's the problem with reverses? Kansas City run them, Detroit run them. What's the problem? I think it's just kind of frustrating. A lot of times it seems like it comes across as cute. You're taking the ball out of CJ Stroud's hands. And to be honest with you, a lot of it is just result driven. But I think a lot of times it feels like Bobby runs them a lot. It does seem like kind of one of those types of things.
Well, they're annoying as hell because last year that was sometimes the only way you were moving the ball on the ground. Like, that was the only way to get more than 3 yards a carry. It is a reverse handed to Xavier Hutchinson. I mean, how many times did we see something like that last year? Or Steven Sims had a reverse for 20 yards last year. They were annoying because they were successful sometimes, and the regular rushing attack wasn't. They're way more fun when the regular rushing attack's taking care of business.
Yeah, so that's beyond the box score there. Now we go to the tight ends. And Joe Mixon actually shouted out Cade Stover. We look at the box score, and I think this might be one of the biggest beyond the box score week 1 observations. The tight ends only had 4 catches for 19 yards, which isn't great, but it's not like they were called upon to do anything more. They weren't asked, like the tight ends were not asked to do much more. Brevin Jordan made a big catch on 4th down in which he stayed focused. When CJ went to the ground, that moved the chains, that led to points. He was actually wide open on a screen that was actually perfectly set up. CJ got a little bit pressured, kind of sailed it over his head. Probably want to put a little bit more air on that, and Brevin Jordan could potentially still be running. Cade Stover got the shout out from Joe Mixon. He seems comfortable doing fullback things. I thought the tight ends were fine. They're not. You're not going to look in the box score and come away with a lot of production consistently from the tight ends. But I thought the tight ends were really well, and I thought that they maybe more than any other position they perform beyond the box score.
Cade Stover had 15 snaps. I'm not sure any of them. At the very least, it feels like he had 10 of them at fullback. I mean, he wasn't even lined up as tight end. There was one play where I think Stroud went left, but Stover, it looked like he was maybe running free right because he'd motioned out of that fullback spot. I mean, Brevin Jordan just, hey, sit down, get in your spot, run to the first down, turn around. Oh, CJ's on the ground. Oh, he's not tackled. Like, be there, make it happen. You saw almost the touchdown to Dalton Schultz. It was the interception that got wiped away because of the penalty. Like, there's going to be games where stuff's clicking. You don't need the tight ends. There's going to be a game. I'm telling you. We saw it yesterday with some of the way the offenses work. You can see how it's going to happen at some point. There's going to be a game where you're just going to be able to just, as CJ Stroud, dump that thing to the tight ends in the middle of the field and just eat people alive. Like, I could already see how that's going to happen at some point this year, but did what they needed to do.
Let's hear from the face of Beyond the Box Score. DeMeco and Matt Burke like to mention him a lot. Aaron Wilson, KPRC2, caught up with Will Anderson. Here's what Will Anderson had to say after the game.
Killed you to not be 100%. This time you were healthy or relatively so.
Yeah.
How did it feel to come in here and get this win?
Man, it felt amazing, man. I think the preparation is all fall camp. We just had the foundation set, man. Defense and offense competing every day, going against each other. Us having a bad day, offense having a good day, offense having a bad day. It just molded us into the team that we are right now. And I'm super proud of these guys, man. And we have a team that fights for 60 minutes, man. And we have a team that fights from the first quarter to the fourth quarter.
I don't know if everyone understands this. Maybe I would say fans, maybe, but you guys do. Anthony Richardson is a very difficult quarterback.
Yeah. I think we did a really good job in assaulting the pocket. I think that was one of our keys to victory. I think the D tackles got off today. They did a really good job of collapsing the pocket. In the run game, we did a really good job too. We got some things we got to clean up. We got some mistakes that happened. But it's all a part of the game, man. But I'm so proud of this group, man. And I would have rather played for any other group but this one.
And this guy ran for 188. He's one of the best. He was the NFL rushing champion a few years ago, but he was contained today.
Yeah.
What does it mean?
Yeah, it means a lot, man. But I think it's just the preparation that we put in all week and the mindset and the mentality that we had, as a defense, saying that, we're not going to let this guy get off. We're going to stop him, and we're going to hold each other accountable. And we have an expectation, we have a standard, and we're going to stick to that today.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Aaron Wilson. What does it mean? He went Mark Berman. Aaron Wilson went Mark Berman. How does it make you feel?
This is definitely going to have to be Beyond the Box Score analysis of the end position. They combined for 3 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, and 1 pass deflection. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson did.
How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel, though? Do you feel like they played well? Because that was one of the main talking points yesterday. Where was Danielle Hunter and where were Will Anderson? Not in like a bad way. I expect these guys to wreak havoc this year. But again, Stoots, I go back to what I was saying when we were talking about the grades. They weren't on the field very much.
Right. And the Colts threw the ball 19 times. Like these two are built to assault teams that are going to throw 35, 40 times and wear down and finally get past those tackles. And the Colts, look, they don't have the best tackles in the world, but they get the ball out quick with Anthony Richardson a lot of times. And then his pocket maneuverability, he maneuvered away from the ends. By the way, Hunter and Anderson weren't even in on the first Pierce one. They ran a tackle and end, swap on the second Pierce one. And the Doolin, what's the guy's name?
Dublin. I don't know. It's who the hell is that? That's who that was. That was who the hell is that? That's who that was.
And on the who the hell was that play, that was 1-2, get it out and make a nice throw. So like outside of that, they didn't have a ton of passing yards. Like those 3 plays, okay, they didn't make the play on those 3 plays, but they funneled stuff inside. The Foley Fatukasi sack is because Anderson and Hunter did their job. Like even Edwards too, as he kind of looped around from where all the bodies were. Like both of those feel like because the ends did their job, the tackles benefited. And so, yeah, you're gonna have to look beyond sacks and tackles for a loss. And the Tuesday is always a fun day for the nerds because some of those advanced stats come out, and Will Anderson was the advanced stats king.
Are you telling on yourself? Are you telling on yourself, my friend?
I like pass rush win rate, and I like run stop win rate, and it comes out Tuesday mornings on ESPN.
Gosh.
And Will Anderson, as a rookie last year, was 3rd in pass rush win rate, and he was 2nd in run stop win rate at defensive end. And it's not quite Playboy coming in the mail, but it's pretty fun to go check that out.
You might be dating yourself there. These kids these days, they have Playboy at their
on the internet.
Yeah, Playboy coming in the mail. On the messages, tell me, can you relate to what Cody Stoots just said about Playboy coming in the mail? Let us know in the comments. Super chats go to the front. Final thing, because this was a good version of Beyond the Box Score. I think a lot of guys deserve their flowers. The DBs were even worse than you think. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think needs to be. Look, there's a lot of times where there's quarterbacks, like I think Lamar Jackson, like with how we started this season, I think Lamar Jackson gets criticized because he creates opportunities that no one else would be able to have. Like nobody else would even be able to put themselves in a situation to attempt some of the throws that he throws, that he misses, specifically in that game where you make. I mean, you're making Chris Jones miss, and then you're running for your life, and you miss a throw. It's like that's a little bit different than just sitting in the pocket. Anthony Richardson misses the throws that people act like Lamar Jackson misses, and that miss to Adonai Mitchell after he mixed Derek Stingley. Who knows how different the game looks? And there were a couple other ones, and the interception doesn't happen if he hits Adonai Mitchell. Kalen Bullock doesn't get that interception, whether it was high, whether he slipped, whatever. It doesn't even happen if he just makes the basic of most basic throws. So the DBs, DeMeco, his defensive guys, all that's beyond a teachable moment there, because the secondary they were bad beyond the box score.
I mean, there's going to be some moments when they go back and watch this game where guys are going to be slumped down in their chair, going to be trying to hide, going to be, doing one of these, like when you didn't want to get called on in class, you do one of these. You're like, okay, all right. Oh, look at Adonai Mitchell. What happened there, Sting? I don't know what happened.
He knows.
One thing, look, Derek Stingley got cooked on that one, and Richardson overthrew the guy.
Right.
A beyond the box score element of Stingley. Woo. His anticipation on some of that short stuff, like you could tell he had put in some study to know when they run this is what it's going to look like. And he was flying in there for those quick tackles after some of those short passes, some of those sideway passes. Like he was in there to make some of those quick plays for short gains, no gains. And so that's a big positive to Stingley's game. And you could sort of see maybe some of the preparation pay off, even though there was some cookery in some of the plays that go down as incompletes.
High Horse, great work, Cody. Thanks for your insight and being great to the listeners. Houston media needs more like you. #GOAT.
I am not the GOAT, but I would like to be the GOAT one day. So I'm going to keep
Well, he is a horse, so he might know, like, or he's not. I don't know. Whatever he is, he might have a good idea for farm animals. I would assume.
Somebody just hit the bat phone here, Landry, and I want to read this. It's not in the chat, but I want to read this. I'm gonna need you guys to just broadcast.
What is this?
I'm gonna need you guys to just broadcast 12 hours a day. I can't get this anywhere else in the city. I mean, and it's a great compliment. We're gonna bring this every week. You're getting the best Texans coverage right here. It's the Locker Room. It's Cody Stoots here on YouTube. You're gonna get the best here. What are you
we
doing
got
over there?
covered.
What are you?
Everything you need to know. So I've been thinking about this. Just shout out to the listeners. We're still going. We're going deep. So here's what I'm doing. I'm sitting here and I'm envisioning like a stick mic, and as I'm doing it, I'm holding this big ass mic, and I'm like, okay, can I turn this into a stick mic? Can I take the screws off and turn this into a stick mic? The possibilities there. I think I'm just going to go buy a stick mic after DeMeco speaks today. But that's what I'm doing because I'm looking at the vision. It looks good. You know, I got the Roadcaster here.
Swarm.
So and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, okay, I really think the vibe with the stick mic could be nice.
We need to get you one of those really tiny microphones like Bob Barker used to have.
Dude.
You know?
How about the hose Bob Barker used to have? My goodness.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Speaking of Price is Right, in the spirit of Bob Barker, I'm going to play a little game of buy or sell with Cody Stoots. That's an interesting transition there, but let's play buy or sell here on SNL Reaction Monday. Cody, I'm going to start with the Joe Mixon factor. Joe Mixon right now, his over-under heading into the season was 850 rushing yards. So basically he needs 700 yards in 16 games. Buy or sell with the head start, Joe Mixon having over 1,200 yards rushing for the Texans this year.
1,200?
1,200 yards. We are adjusting the line. 1,200 yards for Joe Mixon.
Oh boy, okay. I'm selling that because I do believe there are going to be moments this season where they're just gonna pass teams to death, and they're gonna just keep scoring, and they're gonna pour it on, and you won't need that much from Joe Mixon. That's a lofty goal. And look, I have been one of the biggest proponents of I'm not worried about Joe Mixon, his age and the wear and tear. He's been in the top 5 for carries 3 times in the past 5 years. Like, I am that. That's to get to 1,200, which is would have been the second highest number last year. He's going to have to carry the ball nearly 300 times.
Did you see the 30 carries, Cody? Did you see the 30 carries?
Yeah, 30 carries over 17 games is 580 attempts. So he's not doing that over the course of the season. And something I'm going to work on this week is big carry numbers for Joe Mixon. How did he do in the next game over the course of his career?
Yeah, and that's the crazy part. We don't have to get too into that situation. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to sell that, but it pains me because I'm one of the biggest Joe Mixon believers headed into this season.
All right, I talked about this, and I just got a text from Texans Cap. Shout out to Texans Cap. He brought up the running back situation, and we were talking once Pierce made the roster, and we both agreed, and most people that cover the squad agreed. Like, if Dameon Pierce had been inactive yesterday, it wouldn't have shocked me. Dameon Pierce being RB2 didn't shock me. Buy or sell Cam Akers being inactive as something that's going to be a consistent thing for the Texans this year, or is this going to kind of be RB2 by committee? Buy or sell Cam Akers being a consistent inactive for the Texans?
I'm going to sell this. And the reason I'm selling it is there may be a moment or an opportunity where he fits as a role player on the depth chart in a game better than somebody else. Maybe it's a special teams. Maybe they see some success on kickoffs or this, but you saw yesterday why British Brooks was active and why Cam Akers wasn't. British Brooks covers kicks and laid a hit on that kick. Cam Akers can't do that.
Yeah. What happened on that pump block, though? We got to figure that out. What happened on that pump block, though?
Yeah. British Brooks looked like he probably screwed that up. So Frank Ross will not tell us who did it, but we can all see it. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes there's some depth there. There's not much else that I can really think about that.
Here's what I would ask you about Cam Akers is what was he supposed to do yesterday? Like the old Bill Parcells thing. What do you do for me on game day? What was Cam Akers going to do yesterday?
No, if Mixon's toting the rock for 30 and he's doing it like that, it's different. But over the course of a season, like I don't want 28 carrying the ball 30 times.
Well, and how many? You probably know, but for the folks at home, give them a second to guess. You know how many kickoff returns the Texans had yesterday? Okay, give you a second. 0.
Yeah.
Cam Akers, if you're not going to have kickoff returns, then Cam Akers doesn't have a role on special teams. He can't return punts. Dare's a better pass blocker than him, so they put him in on third downs. And Joe Mixon's a beast. So where can he help you? It's the same reason John Metchie was inactive. He can't help you on special teams.
At one point, it felt like the kickoff was trying to be killed by the NFL, and then it was like, oh, it's alive. I don't know. They might have killed the kickoff. It is. We're at the halfway point here. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. We're about 700 deep right now. Myself, Cody Stoots. This is going to be a consistent thing. And we got a big announcement next week about this exclusive collaboration, SNL Reaction Monday. Texans. We'll be reacting to Texans Bears next week. Same time, same channels. And it's just be on the lookout for the big announcement next week. We got you covered. Playing buy or sell here with Cody Stoots, Landry Locker, in the spirit of Bob Barker. Is he dead? Yes, he is. Rest in peace. Right?
Ooh,
I killed Bob Barker?
I think you just killed Bob Barker.
No, I think he's dead. Dead.
He died last year at 99.
Okay, see, told you. Didn't make it to 100. Damn. Should have.
99 is a good run. Would you sign up for 99?
Well, if we were wagering 100 years, I would have just said $1.
All right.
Just said $1.
All right, Landry.
Shout out to Bob. All right, buy or sell secondary concerns for the Houston Texans. Are you worried about this secondary? Yay or nay? Now, I will say this isn't like a new concern. I do have a new concern I want to get into in a second, but buy or sell secondary concerns for the Texans.
I feel like that guy on CNBC or whatever it is, the Jim Cramer. Buy. Like he hits the little button on his little stock market show. I'm buying this, and something that we haven't talked about yet, and probably went under the radar. Jeff Okudah got hurt yesterday and left the game and didn't come back. So your third corner, the guy that backs up Stingley or Lassiter when they need a breather or a break, he got hurt his hip again. He had a lower body injury in training camp that kept him out, and he got hurt. So not only did you have some rough moments for the secondary as a whole, but now your depth is a little bit weaker, and it could get a little dicey. This is no easy wide receiver matchup coming into this week. I know that the Bears didn't have a lot of offense yesterday, but you just need one, as Anthony Richardson showed you. You just need one big play to get into a situation where you can then find yourself with an opportunity to score. And Jimmy Ward, he's got to bounce back.
Like juvenile.
We will see more from Jalen Petrie in a coverage situation from his new position. I believe we'll see more when teams like the Bears or the Vikings are the opponent versus the Colts. And I would like to see a little bit more Kalen Bullock on the field, even if it is, hey Jimmy, let's get Jimmy a breather here. Let's put Bullock out there, and maybe a little bit less Eric Murray too. So I'm concerned about the secondary. I am, but they may be just one foolish challenge away from taking one back the other way as well. So I'm buying that. I have some concerns about this secondary.
All right, special teams. You concerned about special teams? Now, Kaimi Fairbairn, 3 for 3 from 50 plus. What about but then you had a block punt. We go back to the costly mistakes. We didn't even mention getting a punt blocked inside the 5-yard line. Are you worried about special teams?
I'm selling this. I'm not worried about special teams. They're not going to get a punt blocked every week. They're the kickoff returns, like the Colts. The Colts had some touchbacks. Then they had one that started at like the 32 off of a kickoff return, but they had a 27 that started off of a kickoff return. I'm selling special teams concerns. And I mean, Kaimi Fairbairn, who have missed an easy one in that building at the end of last season, and to come in there and basically not have any issues and just put it clear as day. I feel really good about the special teams. I'm selling issues. I'd buy stock in the special teams if I could.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Teaching moments, man, not costly moments, teaching moments. It makes it a lot easier to teach when you're teaching a guy like British Brooks, assuming that he made the mistake on the block punt. It's a lot easier to teach when he doesn't feel like he costs you the game. It's like hey, we got to figure this out. We got to tighten it up. And you heard British Brooks. We talked to him. He's willing to do whatever is needed for him on this team. So I'm with you. I'm not selling special teams at all. I think they've been elite at special teams for a few years. I think that they'll get there.
Yeah, they're one of the better special teams units every year, and it feels like they actually have some good additional investment beyond what they've had in the past years in the special teams too. So, yep. I do wonder if teams aren't going to, utilize the kickoff against the Texans if there's a week where Steven Sims isn't needed.
Yeah, Steven Sims. I don't know what the overall goal is for Steven Sims. The punt return, I guess. He was active. Metchie was not. Did you make anything of John Metchie being inactive? Look, he was on the fringe ish. I think it was as much of a chess move as a checker move, keeping John Metchie. I think if this were year 4 for John Metchie, I don't know that he 100% makes the team, but the fact that it was year 3 and he did show some improvement, he's on the squad. But I do think John Metchie being inactive could be a relatively consistent thing. I think that could happen quite often.
Who could you put him on the field over? The 3 wide receivers for the Texans, the top 3 played a ton. You didn't even see Xavier Hutchinson or Robert Woods that much in this matchup. Those guys have special teams usefulness, and John Metchie doesn't. He can't help you in the return game. So what can you do for me on game day? You didn't need John Metchie replicating skill sets that you already had, who could also play special teams.
It is SNL Reaction Monday here with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots. Is the Joe Mixon workload sustainable? That's the question that I want to ask. I know you've been very, very optimistic and feeling really, really good about Joe Mixon and what Joe Mixon can do. I like Joe Mixon. I do wish that there was more comfort in the backup running backs to where, look, I'm not expecting them to come in and get 12 carries a game out of the backup running back. It would be nice if they had that level of comfort. I do think that's going to be a priority next offseason is bringing in more running backs. I think they're going to aggressively pursue it. But is this sustainable? Let's say like 22, 23 carries a game. Is that sustainable for Joe Mixon?
It's not, and it's not the best way. And they talked about it on the broadcast. I was a little surprised with the conversation that they had about Joe Mixon, because broadcast teams don't always delve into it this way. Joe Mixon has a contract that extends beyond this season and next season. Joe Mixon is here for the 2024 season, the 2025 season, for them to use him as much as possible and then move on from him after 2025. Like, that is the game plan for Joe Mixon. And he can sustain it more than likely. But as you get further on, as you have a lot more wear and tear, as you get towards 30, you do need to sneak in that backup running back. And maybe because Damian had success in the handful of carries that he did have, you can get that in there. But Mixon can't do this every week. You're talking about 500 carries.
Well, and it's not just carries. It's and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Look, it's not just carries. The dude, he punishes dudes. I mean, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's a safety, like these are some physical runs by Joe Mixon.
Right, and we're not even counting plays where he has to go out there and pass block, or plays where he has to go out there and run a route that he doesn't have the football. Like, he had a very physically demanding day, and you just don't want to do that. And I know what DeMeco Ryans would say. That's what we needed to win the football game on Sunday. Okay, but you hopefully don't need that every single week, and you can adjust and maneuver around Joe Mixon being really good, needing him to run the football, but also making sure that you have Joe Mixon and you could turn to him in week 17, 18, divisional round, wild card round, AFC Conference Championship. You get that far, like you do have to be cognizant of that. You can't just say, well, we'll just run him till he breaks and then we'll just put the next guy in. You don't have that kind of room. You really don't.
The state of the safety position after week one, and this is one of those things that's still here. Like one of the concerns that's still here. We wondered what Mixon would look like. All you have to grade him on is 1 week. So the run game looks great. They wanted to improve the run game. It looks much improved. It looks like they set out to accomplish that, and they accomplished it. Safety's been one of the most polarizing positions for a number of reasons. First of all, Jalen Petrie has a new role, which means that Eric Murray is now your deep safety. That didn't look awesome. Jimmy Ward is a year older. That didn't look awesome. How do you feel? But we did see Kalen Bullock get an interception. Anthony Richardson missed Adonai Mitchell. How do we feel about the state of the safety position?
I'll answer your question, but I want to ask you. The broadcast was adamant that the tight end slipped, and that's why the interception occurred. I'm with you. Then I vehemently disagree that play occurred because of the slip. That play was happening no matter what.
Well, I mean, and
he overthrew it.
God forbid Anthony Richardson throw a pass high. I mean, it's like, I mean, I don't know. Like we saw him sailing passes the entire time. They said that. I didn't think it like threw off. The pass was high.
The only thing more inaccurate than Anthony Richardson yesterday is Gene Steratore. So the safety room, there's definitely worry because Jimmy Ward, a decade plus into the NFL, you do worry that, hey, this is the guy, this is who he's going to be, and maybe he's not going to be any better than he was. I mean, you've seen it hundreds of times. A veteran has a steady level of play, comes into the next season, and he just can't get it. Like the excuse of, hey, it's week one, that can be retroactively okay if you take care of business. But if I watch Rome Odunze run by you, if I watch who's the nobody on the Bears, who's the Doolin for the Bears, if I watch Doolin run through the middle of the defense again and the secondary and the safeties not be there to take care of their business, if I watch Caleb Williams juke Jalen Petrie, out of his football pants, then okay, I'll start worrying a lot more about this safety room. The big thing is, Landry, they chose this. They had opportunities and directions to go elsewhere, but they chose Ward and Murray and Bullock as their top three guys, and they chose to move Petrie into that hybrid position that he's in. So they have to now live with that and manage that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. At Sim Sam says, I like what Mixon said about the O-line and working together and get on the same page. Some rust, but the season goes. I think it helps the whole running back room. Yeah, and shout out to Sim Sam. Appreciate you. The thing about the offensive line is we heard Slowick say he didn't think they got enough time together in camp, and I thought that was kind of interesting. We did see him allow the 4 sacks. Maybe the field surface played into that. Maybe there was a lot of times where CJ was holding the ball. I think there's just a massive amount of gray area when it comes to evaluating sacks and pressure. A lot of times it kind of feels like CJ's feeling the pressure and maybe he's trying to extend the play. So I do think there's some nuance there, but there were a couple times where the Colts just completely pushed guys back into CJ Stroud and he had to get out of the way. There was the sack on the I think it was the first drive of the game where after CJ slipped on 4th and 1 and found Jordan, Titus Howard just got completely pushed back into CJ.
Yeah, Quiddy Pay ate his lunch.
Yeah. And so you do see that. Are you worried about the offensive line? The run blocking was good, I would assume. Although I do think a running back can make an offensive line look good, contrary to some popular belief. But are you worried about the offensive line at all?
I would. I'm gonna split one of those sacks up for the Colts, and I'm gonna credit one of them to the turf because there was the play where CJ slipped, and he had just been they just touched his shoulder pad, like he hadn't been hit, like they just got a hand on him and he slipped on the turf, like that wasn't a sack, but he went down, and so like that was a play he if the turf's right, he doesn't even fall down. They don't even get the sack credit on that one. But the other one's not good. I am concerned about the pass blocking, and we saw one of those sacks. Hopefully that gets cleaned up where DeForest Buckner's running free and mauls CJ Stroud for a 7-yard loss. Like that was no good. One of them was just pressure. they brought everybody, nobody blocked anybody, and that's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, it's going to happen. DeForest is going to wreak havoc in some way, shape, or form. That's just kind of what he does.
You have such a good performance run blocking. Like last year, we talked about issues protecting the quarterback, and they couldn't run the football. But I mean, Tunsil and Mason and Kenyon Green and Scruggs and Howard and the tight ends and Stover as the fullback, they're out there mauling people on outside plays up the middle, opening giant holes for Joe Mixon. I'd love to know what his yards before contact were, because there were times where he was headed to the second level before guys were even close to getting a hand on him. That helps prop up the performance. And ultimately, I'm not worried. I'm not super worried long-term about pass blocking from this group, because they may only need to be average pass blockers because of what CJ Stroud brings to the table at the quarterback spot. I'd love for them to be elite pass blockers. My God, that's how they're paid. They're paid to be elite on the tackles at pass blocking. So I'd love for them to be elite, but they may only need to be average because Stroud can manage some of that stuff. We saw it yesterday with the drifting that he can do and keep a play alive. Not every guy can drift and keep a play alive. That's reserved for a handful of guys in the NFL. Stroud's one of them.
It is SNL Reaction Monday. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you here. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to subscribe to both channels. Be sure to like. We're about 700 deep right now. And this is really all you need. Here's a question. Is Nico Collins wide receiver 1?
Yes. And is he the best wide receiver on the team? That'd be my follow-up question. Yes, he is. And is he actually the best wide receiver on this team? This is Diggs had 2 touchdowns. He had six targets, 6 catches, 2 touchdowns. Nico had the most yards, and then Tank had some. I mean, there was a scramble drill where Tank was open and CJ found him, and it felt like the Colts knew we're not going to let Tank Dell beat us, and so they were flying in on some of the short, quick stuff to Tank to knock it away or to make something happen there. But there's not many guys that can make a couple of the plays that Nico made. the down the middle with 2 guys. Surely you've seen the picture that's made the rounds where EJ Speed is literally hugging him as they go to the ground, and Nico has the ball and he comes down with it in the middle of the field. Like, there's only a handful of guys that can make that play, and then hit him going on an out route to the sideline is just, it feels somewhat unstoppable in the way that he runs the route. So precise. He uses his body, has the control, and to get the knee down on that 3rd and 12 in the 4th quarter after the 2-minute warning. My God, what a play. Picked up right where he left off. And there will be days where he's less and the other guys are more, but there's going to be a lot more Nico days than I feel like people expected this year. It felt like Diggs cut into Tank Dell a little bit more than he cut into Nico.
Yeah, I would say he is not. I still think Diggs is wide receiver 1, but I mean, it's not like a massive gap. You saw the chemistry with CJ and Diggs was able to find the end zone twice. I think there'll be weeks where even Tank Dell has the most production. I think that's just kind of the way it's going to go. I just think that the Colts are Nico Collins' bitch at this point. He's the T.Y. Hilton. Like, the roles have been completely reversed. I mean, the last 2 regular season games played at Lucas Oil Stadium, you've had Nico Collins just completely suck the life out of the stadium. It's not even just the fact that he's producing. The thing that makes someone a thorn on the ass, like a guy like T.Y. Hilton, it's not just the production, it's the manner in which the plays happen. And it's just complete kicks to the junk. You go back to week 18, the 75-yard touchdown on the first play. This time he had 3 massive plays. He had the 57-yard Moss just completely going up and grabbing it over 2 guys where CJ has pressure and it's kind of underthrown and he goes up and gets it. You had the play, the drive that started in the 3rd quarter and ended in the 4th with the Mixon touchdown where CJ rolls to the side and goes across his body, and he and Nico are on the same page, so he's able to catch that one. And then you have the one where you kind of feel like, man, we're destined to win this game if you're Indianapolis. You come out of the 2-minute warning. You got stuff lined up perfectly to where a field goal is going to win it. False start immediately on Kenyon Green, and then on 3rd and 12, it was such a rarely crazy executed sideline pass that even the announcer was fooled, and quite frankly, I didn't blame him. And you found and you had CJ finding Nico. So I think that Nico he's seems to just like playing the Indianapolis Colts for whatever reason.
Last 3 games for Nico Collins against the Indianapolis Colts. 6 for 117 yesterday. 9 for 195 and a touch. 7 for 146 and a touch.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nico Hilton.
Get him a clown mask, because that's what he is to the Indianapolis Colts. T.Y. Hilton. And did you see T.Y. Hilton? They have like a drum or something at the Colts Stadium. He banged the drum wearing the clown mask yesterday. And then, well, they had a T.Y. Hilton-like performance, but it wasn't from his guys. It was from Nico Collins.
Yeah, it was an interesting one for sure. Where were the edge dudes? Where were the edge dudes at? That's a question that some people are asking. Where were Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter yesterday?
The Colts knew where they were. They were making sure that those guys weren't going to beat them. They were going to force Fadukasi and Edwards to get in there and make plays. They probably show up a lot more in in setting it up for other guys to make plays, but from a box score perspective, 3 tackles between Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, 1 tackle for a loss, that was Daniil Hunter, and 1 pass deflection. Or excuse me, that was Will Anderson, the 1 pass deflection, that was Daniil Hunter. They did not have a statistically impressive game, but that's not always why they're there. The front 7 is predicated on trusting those 2 guys to always do their job and create some sort of havoc. And I feel like they did a good enough job yesterday. They basically set up the 2 sacks.
Yeah, Will had the TFL early on that kind of set the tone. He put his hand up and stuff. Hunter, it seemed like he was close a couple of times, and he kind of got the best of the tackle, but he wasn't able to finish the play. 20 minutes is not a lot of time. I don't think that a lack of pressure contributed to the big plays either. I don't feel like it. I feel like it just was go back and toss it. So I think they were fine. I don't think that 20 minutes. It's hard to evaluate them. I'm looking at what Jonathan Taylor did, and I'm assuming that Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, despite the fact they didn't have a lot of tackles, I'm assuming that they had an impact on that.
The first Pierce play, Hunter and Anderson weren't even in. It was a Derek Barnett and Jerry Hughes rep, and Derek Barnett walked the right tackle. I mean, he was moving him like he was furniture, but Richardson had navigated and drifted out of the pocket and made that big throw. So even I mean, it's a great job by Barnett, but Richardson's a unique talent in that landscape. And then you mentioned on the big plays. They didn't get home on the second Pierce one. It was well blocked by the Colts. And then on the Doolin one, they didn't have time. Richardson, on time, train was running on time, and he hit Doolin over the middle. So there wasn't time to rush the passer on that one. So only 19 pass attempts in this one. I guarantee you when that number gets up to 30, 35, 40, you're going to see a lot more of 51 and 55.
Yeah, I feel almost more certain of that. It is Reaction Monday with SNL here with Landry Locker, Cody Stoots. We'll get to what happened at the end of the first half in a second. First, though, I want to talk about fat folks because we haven't really talked about the linebackers really at all. We briefly mentioned them, but I will say this: I got to speak to Henry To'oTo'o last week. He was very honest about why he's feeling better. And I think we kind of saw it play out. Henry To'oTo'o looks like less of a fatso. And this was Henry To'oTo'o talking about why he was more confident heading into Indianapolis this time around than last time.
Between you as a player heading into Indy week 1 versus what you were at the end of the season last year.
I was a fat ass last year. I was a fat ass. But I'm more leaner. It's honesty, bro. I feel more leaner, more in shape. Worked really hard throughout the off season and focusing just strictly on my body and my diet. So I think that's the biggest
What
difference.
what was the biggest part of having to eliminate the weight? What's the biggest challenge for you?
Eating sweets. I'm a big sweet guy. My wife cooks a lot of bakes. She bakes a lot, so telling my wife no when she's cooking cupcakes or cake or something like that. So
She still cooks.
Oh,
Some
100%.
She still cooks. Some
100%. He know
kind
about
of
it.
Say no to the cake this time.
Okay. So weight was a
Weight
factor
was
last year?
definitely just controlling my body weight, trying to stay at a steady pace and be at a percent of fats that I feel comfortable at and playing well at. So now it's just about maintaining that for me. But I feel really, really good where I'm at right now.
What was the biggest impact? Was that did it impact your coverage? Did it impact your conditioning?
Man, it impacted everything, just my core strength, being able to take on linemen, being able to control my weight when I'm coming on a tackle. It's everything. I'd be able to move more fluently, so I feel really, really good.
You feel real good about it? It's good.
100%.
Good routine.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that, so I'll take the sweets.
Yeah.
There you go, Henry Toto. And you saw it. You saw it play out. There's a lot of times where people talk about, hey, I'm in more shape. I'm in better shape. You see him play. It's like, he looks the same. But you actually saw it play out on the field. He did look better for sure.
Well, he's in the trust tree. DeMeco Ryans trusts him. And we were worried about Christian Harris not being out there, and Henry Toto ended up playing 89% of the snaps. He came off the field just a handful of times. Jake Hansen didn't even get a defensive snap. Didn't even record a defensive snap for this team. So they trusted Toto. Look, did he get stiff armed by Anthony Richardson and come up short on what could have been a tackle for a loss? Yeah. You know who's going to do that over the course of the season? A lot of linebackers, because Anthony Richardson is a one-of-one talent in his style and size and the combination of everything that he has athletically. But I felt like Toto was a much better football player than he was a year ago. And you saw it in helping stop Jonathan Taylor, and they trusted him a lot. And the trust and faith in him paid off because they had him on the field a bunch, and they were very successful in stopping the run and slowing some things down.
Yeah, he looked good. It'll be interesting to see how they handle Caleb Williams, because he's not Anthony Richardson. Like he's not as much of a runner, but he is going to extend plays. They got some stuff on tape. That's the scariest thing about deep plays. Like you can sit there and you can say, well, we want to eliminate these, but I mean, those stick out like dry hump scenes in PG-13 movies back in the day. When you're talking about the deep plays and giving up 50+ yard plays that they notice, and they're sitting there and they're thinking, all right, who was the guy? What was the reason for this? Who can we take advantage of? Do we put guys in motion and figure it out? So that's the thing. Like on one side, DeMeco and them are going to want to eliminate. On the other side, it's sticking out like the Monsters Ball sex scene with Billy Bob and Halle Berry, although that was rated R, big time rated R movie. But yeah, you get what I'm saying.
DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and whoever the Ashton Doolin of the Bears is, they're all sitting there just thinking, okay, we're going to get this thing going. We're going to trust our QB to just chunk the hell out of this thing, and we're going to go down there and get us a big play. That's one of those. How do we replicate that if you're the Bears? Because they did not have a good offensive day against the Titans yesterday. So one big play, get them going, get them deep into the red zone and let Caleb Williams get in there and put a little work together. That could be a game changer for the Bears. So they got those circled for sure. How do we replicate those? Oh, we got to go find 20. Okay, we'll find 20. We'll make sure Rome Odunze or Keenan Allen or DJ Moore find 20.
Yeah, shout out to Seth Payne. Corey T says that physics prevailed, as Seth states. Seth's like into science and stuff. He's too smart for me. But shout out to Seth and shout out to Sean. Hey, 6 to 8, 8 to 10. This is all you need, really. I mean, you can go about your day and you got everything you need. Texans 6 to 8, Sean and Seth, and then you're good. Physics prevailed, as Seth stated. Toto is where he needed to be to make the play for sure.
Yeah.
And he was more capable. There was one time where he probably could have wrapped up He was the first guy there. I think the guy spun off and got like an extra 6 yards, but he was good. Shout out to Henry To'o for making the most out of what God gave him. Let's be honest. I mean, this is a day 3 pick. If he's out there and you feel comfortable putting him out there in games like this, then that is success. And it feels like DeMeco is coaching him up. Go ahead.
There was one play on the broadcast where, and I think it's the one you're talking about, where the broadcast team was like, "Great job by To'o to be there," but it was a play where he had not made the play.
Yeah,
and the guy went
6 yard gain. Yeah, it was a spin.
I was like, that's a very strange.
They threw it quickly in the slot, and he completely swarmed, but he didn't wrap up on the swarm.
That was a
Swarm.
That was a poor broadcast yesterday by them.
Well, they tried to sneak. I didn't think it was that bad, but they're very willing to make the booth crowded with the McCourty brothers. Like, as long as they can get one McCourty brother in, they are very okay with it. It's very interesting. Like,
they got the best agents in the game, man.
God.
I was also shocked at the amount of times Tiki Barber was just flat out wrong about something. Like, I feel like he's been better in the past too. Like, it was the Dalton Schultz play. It was the end of the first half, and he was like, "Well, that's an incomplete pass. That's an incomplete pass, right, Gene Steratore?" And Gene Steratore's like, "Oh yeah, it's an incomplete pass." And it's like they were just so sure of it, and then the official comes out after the review like it was a completed pass. Play stands, and then they were both like, oh yeah, you got extra feet down." Like, oh, okay, idiots.
Jeez, man, it's pretty harsh. I will say this though, I got to confess something real quick.
Watch this. These are my confessions.
Does Tiki Barber sound like Mark Schlereth, or is it just me? Like, I don't know what the deal is, but Tiki Barber to me sounds like Mark Schlereth. Like, I was watching the game, I was doing the notes, I was going through. He sounds like Mark Schlereth during games. He doesn't sound it on the radio, but when he's broadcasting and analyzing games, Tiki Barber to me sounds like Mark Schlereth.
I have to go back and listen to this again.
You're not going to be able to unsee this.
I'll be able to, I guess, unhear it maybe. I will have to go back and listen to this. Okay.
Yeah, unsee, unhear, whatever. Well, actually, guy, F you. Vega, shout out to Vega for the super chat. Shout out to Rafi over at Craft Pita for coming in second to Alex. No shame in that.
Oh man, you went right at him.
That's a compliment, man.
You can't talk about the king of Mediterranean food like that.
It means you beat 2 other people. So that's actually very, very good, even though he was very offended when she decided to go with pasta. So we got to get to this. We've waited 90 minutes, and it is Reaction Monday, SNL Reaction Monday with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots. We're going to do big play spitting coming up. How many big plays were there? Whenever I watch a game, I underline a big play. I will present those, we'll count them, and we'll just react rapidly to the big plays. Some big play spitting here on Reaction Monday coming up. But first, we got to talk about what happened at the end of the second half.
First half,
excuse me, the end of the first half for the Texans. And I just want to say this, I want to preface this. There is no excuse for what happened at the end of the first half with the Houston Texans. We're talking about leaving 3 points on the board, which was the actual point spread. If CJ Stroud had not pulled the rabbit out of the hat, we might be talking about the Texans losing a game by 1 point, and it would all go back to what happened at the end of the first half. Now, DeMeco Ryans has said that he made a mistake. I agree. Now, does that mean it's 100% the Texans' fault and they were the only ones who looked goofy in that situation? No, but the reality of it is the Texans should have been kicking the field goal in that situation. Now, it's kind of confusing because the referee was really, really more focused on presenting his goofy ass one-liner to the crowd about confusion than he was actually doing his damn job and explaining what in the F was happening in the game. He went up there, sorry for the confusion. And he was really proud of himself, but he did not go up there and say, hey, by the way, that timeout that Shane Steichen just called doesn't count. So the clock is going to run. Hey, by the way, there's a 10-second runoff and the clock will start on my whistle. He didn't explain that because he was too focused on getting his one-liner out. And the Texans offense was on the field because the dope originally said
15
that
seconds.
there's 15 seconds on the clock. Now, here's the thing. As soon as they said there's 5 seconds remaining, DeMeco Ryans needs to call the ref over like Shane Steichen did. He didn't know that Shane Steichen's timeout didn't count. So it was a little bit confusing for him. So the ref was an absolute dumbass, but the Texans need to proactively know what's going on in that situation. And as soon as you hear that there's 5 seconds left, you either got to be lined up to spike the ball like you previously did in the first place, or you got to send the field goal unit out there and you got to get the 3 points. It makes no sense in any scenario to run a play there, especially if there's going to be 5 seconds on the clock. Now, the warning may have been late. There's plenty of blame to go around, but at the end of the day, the Texans have to come away with 3 points there. But that ref is an absolute dopey goofball.
So there were so many different mess ups by the officiating crew, and the VP or whatever of officiating spoke after the game to Jonathan Alexander, who served as the pool reporter, to kind of explain things. They messed up from the booth telling him 15 seconds. So he repeated 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It was not supposed to be 15 seconds. Okay. It's supposed to be 5. The VP of officiating claims that the Texans were aware and that CJ Stroud was informed that the clock would start on the whistle. Now that's what the VP of officiating claims, that they were informed that the clock would start on the whistle. Here's what the Texans were trying to do, Landry. And
but you can't. Here's the thing, and I'm fighting myself defending the Texans.
But
you have to say that the timeout didn't count. Then you can't let Shane Steichen have a timeout and talk it out. You have to say that the timeout didn't count.
That was seemingly never explained, or they thought that the explanation was clear enough by telling the Texans the clock would start on the whistle. That has not ever been addressed. DeMeco didn't address that they told him that the timeout didn't count. The EVP of officiating didn't say it after the game that the timeout didn't count. They gave Shane Steichen his timeout back. They talked about it on the broadcast, and in the game log, the official NFL game log, the timeout was erased from being called. So they gave Steichen the timeout back, which is something that should have been more clearly stated. But here's the problem. The Texans were trying to buy 5 yards. I've seen them do this in practice all throughout the preseason. They have plays where they run it and they can take 3 seconds off the clock and get 5 yards. I've seen them do it. I watched them do it at the end of a practice one time.
Why?
They didn't want to kick a 55-yarder, I guess.
It was 48.
No, it was a 55-yarder.
I'm pretty sure they were at the look it up on the box score.
They were on the 38.
Okay, so it would have been 55. He made from 50.
Yeah, that was well within Kaimi Fairbairn's range. And they should have been kicking it. They were on the field trying to get 5 yards because the play they tried to run was a quick out on the sideline. They were trying to get 5 yards. And they should have been kicking no matter what. Like, you should have trusted Kaimi Fairbairn to hit a 55-yarder in that spot. And they were trying to get 5 yards to make it a 50-yarder. And they cost themselves 3 points.
Yeah, there's no excuse for it. They know it. We know it. But the ref, I mean, that was absolute goofiness. I'll say this, though. Another confession. God, it's nice to do this.
Watch this. These are my confessions.
I had Tampa Bay flashbacks, man. I was wondering if Fairbairn had pulled something. I was sitting there thinking, okay, are the Texans going to have to go without a kicker again? The last time that I saw the Texans not be able to kick field goals and not be able to attempt, Dare Agumbawale was the kicker. I had Tampa Bay flashbacks in this situation.
You thought there was a greater reason for Kaimi not being on the field?
Yes.
I do wonder if they had the field goal unit out there, because, when you think about the field goal process and how Kaimi operates and how most kickers operate, when the referee blows the whistle, or when they're like, that's when the kicker walks off his approach. I do wonder if the Texans had the kicking unit out, if they even get the kick off, because it's not like Kaimi Fairbairn if they had sent the kicking unit out there, it's not like Fairbairn walks out there to the spot where he starts. Like there's a whole process and routine that he goes through that happens when there's a game clock. Now, obviously, if they knew it was going to be a rush situation, they would have been ready. But the Texans clearly believed that the clock was not starting until a snap. So even if they'd had the kicking team out there, because of some of the confusion, they may not have even gotten the kick off, or they might have gotten some hurried, crappy kickoff. So and this will not happen again. DeMeco Ryans will not make this similar. Like
no, a teachable moment. Like in the past,
Yeah.
we might be talking about this costing them a game. I mean, but this is a teachable moment, and that they won't make the mistake. It wasn't 100% their fault, but they've got to proactively mask others' mistakes. It's like CJ Stroud. Like it's not CJ Stroud's fault that the ball gets pushed back 5 yards out of the 2-minute warning, and then he has to make a play. But when you coach up guys, when you improve the talent on the roster, your margin for error increases. And learning from your mistakes, especially for a coach that was just coaching his 18th regular season game, I mean, I think it's just part of it.
This isn't Bill O'Brien having to be told to challenge the play by Shane Lechler, like from a few years ago. Like I believe this is never going to happen. Anything close to this is never going to happen again with DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But there is no excuse. They got to figure that out. But that's just kind of one of those things.
And this is one of those things too. Not every referee's a wannabe stand-up comic either. Like if that was Hockley's kid, I feel like it'd have been explained better.
Yeah, no doubt. It would have. And this ref, I mean, trying to be funny. Apologies for the confusion. Well, you made it more confusing with that goofy ass explanation, my friend. You made it more confusing there. Not a fan of the ref. Not a fan of the ref's situation. I am a fan of the Texans being the only team to win in the AFC South, which is what we'll get into in a second. First, though, let's do a little bit of what I like to call big play spitting. I'm going to go through the big plays. So full disclosure, when I watch a game, if something happens that I think is a big play, I underline it. And I'm just going to rapid fire these. I want you to tell me on a scale of 1 to 5 how big you think the play was as we look back and react. And we're going to go rapidly. Indianapolis first drive, 4th and 1. They try to set the tone. Anthony Richardson sails it over the head of Adonai Mitchell. How big was that play?
3. It gave you some thoughts that Richardson was going to have issues, but that's a play that a decent team could overcome later in the game. And the Colts almost did.
All right, Texans first drive. You have C.J. Stroud slip and fall. He finds Brevin Jordan. Then on 3rd and 12, I thought this was an underrated big play. Stefon Diggs picks up 11 yards. The Texans elect, rather than going for it on 4th and 1 again, they elect to kick the field goal and take the 3-0 lead. 1 to 5, that group, that the combination of being able to get points.
I'll say 2. 3 is nice, 6 is better, and aggressive enough to get into field goal range, I suppose.
All right, next one as we go big play spitting. British Brooks hit on special teams, and then Richardson finds Pierce for the 60-yard touchdown. What do you make of British Brooks making his impact known on special teams immediately? I know that it was exciting, but I don't know how often they're even going to kick off. So It's cool, but how much does it really matter? I think the kickoff might be dying.
Yeah, it was a 1 on the British Brooks part. Fun in the grand scheme, it doesn't matter as much. That Pierce play, that's a 5, man. That's one of the only big plays that the Colts were able to put together, and that's one of the only times it looked like they had a consistent passing game.
All right, next big play spitting here. Stroud buys time, finds Tank for 23, and the Texans get it settle for a field goal 7-6 after the Fairbairn field goal.
It's 4 because it shows you something that's going to occur plenty of times throughout the course of a game.
Was a sign of things to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we had the Mario Edwards sack, the Nico Collins catch for 57 yards on Houston's 3rd drive. Scale of 1 to 5, how big was that?
5. I mean, that's just gets everybody excited, and And Stroud, we have talked about with that play, Stroud made that throw in the face of pressure. Like I've seen some people like, oh, if he'd put it out there a little bit more, how about the defensive lineman was breathing down his neck and he still made that damn throw? Okay, that's awesome. 5.
All right, next one, and this one was big. Anthony Richardson misses Adonai Mitchell on a wide open touchdown, in which Adonai Mitchell puts Derek Stingley on skates.
5, because it would have been a confidence builder for not only Mitchell but obviously Anthony Richardson as well. So to miss that way, 5.
Yeah, that was the swing. I mean, that was a 7.3 point swing at worst. 3rd and 5, Nico Collins for 16 yards, and then DeMeco Ryans and the Texans' inability to come away with 3 points, 1-5.
I'm gonna go, 4. Anytime you don't come away with points when you should have points, that's not good.
Yeah, not good at all. CJ Stroud near interception to start the second half on the Texans' 6th drive. It was an inch away from being one of the more costly interceptions. I would say it would have been the second most costly interception of CJ Stroud's career. Cincinnati, and that one was rough, where Cincinnati damn near tied the game. This would have been second. I'd say this is a 5. That 1 inch could have changed the game significantly as you look back on everything that went down.
And that was the attempted throwaway, right?
Yes, the attempted throwaway where he couldn't fully get everything into it, and it seemed like it was a massive play by Indianapolis.
That part of the field, you have got to. I mean, I know a sack hurts you a lot, but an interception kills you. You'd rather be hurt than killed. So that's a 5, yeah.
Then you had the Fatukasi sack. What about the block punt that resulted in a Jonathan Taylor touchdown? 1-5.
6. I mean, it basically gave the Colts. I mean, it didn't just give them life. I mean, it almost made them whole. Like it was supposed to be a tie football game after that.
That was one of those like junk plays. But however, you did have after the Taylor touchdown, you had the Eric Murray tackle at the 2-yard line that prevented the Colts from tying the game. 1-5.
I'm gonna give it a 4. But man, what a play by Eric Murray. He went textbook and took care of his business.
Stroud across the body to Collins at the end of the 3rd quarter on 3rd and 14. The token, they don't teach it like that. Most quarterbacks can't make that play. That to me was a 10 because it allowed it set up the Mixon touchdown, which quite frankly should have been the icing on the cake. Like that dance that Joe Mixon was doing should have been the FU dance. The secondary kept it interesting, but for me that was the biggest play of the game before perhaps the biggest play of the game with that same combination.
Well, and it. I mean, tens on it. I mean, you make up for a Nico Collins hold. Joe Mixon had gotten 4 yards on the next couple of plays, and then CJ Stroud drifts, finds Nico Collins. Colts fans are sick.
Then you had the Doolin 54-yard touchdown, which, good Lord.
How does that happen? Like, I mean, that it was a great throw. That's one of the only great throws that Richardson had all day. I mean, it's a throw that not everybody would try, not everybody can make. A great throw. I'll give him credit. It was over the middle, which he usually can't do. But there's no way that guy should have a 50-plus yard catch and run.
Then you have the Texans respond, and they put together a nice drive. You have the Mixon screen for 11, the Dell reverse for 17. Pierce comes in. He gets 13 yards on 2 carries. Dell for 6. Mixon gets inside the 10. He gets to the 3. And then Stroud finds Stefon Diggs on 4th and goal. Shout out to DeMeco Ryans for making that decision. I thought he balanced aggressiveness perfectly. And again, it should be the end of the game.
Intestinal fortitude in that moment.
This should be it. But then you have Pierce mossing
Jimmy Ward.
Jimmy Ward for 58 yards, and then the Colts cut it to 2. And then you have the green false start after the 2-minute warning and the holy bleep moment by CJ Stroud. This game should have been put away not once, not twice, but 3 times in the fourth quarter. Fortunately, they were able to overcome these instances, but you look at these plays, they could have all been 5s. We could have all been sitting here saying a 10, like Billy Bob from Varsity Blues. But CJ Stroud and the offense were able to bail out the defense multiple times after allowing these big plays. You look at the score and you say, man, the Texans didn't even cover the spread. They could have easily, maybe this is a thing that's going to be around for a while, but without giving up the big play, which I think we all dismiss a little bit easily. But without doing that, man, this is almost could have been an ass whooping of a game.
That's like if the Texans played this very game and later in the year and the Colts had the same performance, they'd have beat them by 20. Like there's things to get cleaned up. The defense is going to be better than it is. You're not going to allow and like that's the third wide receiver too. Like it's not like you're supposed to like the third, like Alec Pierce is the third wide receiver for that team. It might be the fourth by the end of the year. They didn't have Downs in this one. He was hurt. And, Mitchell had the one catch for 2 yards or whatever it was officially. Had some other opportunities. Richardson couldn't find him, but they were bad on those big plays. And that was enough to sustain the Colts. Like that kept the Colts whole on basically 4 plays: Doolin, Pierce, and the pump block. Like the Colts were made whole on those 4 plays.
KP wants to ask, and that's big play spitting, which was really hard to do this week because it was just like back and forth, specifically in that fourth quarter. Can y'all speak on the lack of pressure we got on AR, particularly between Hunter and Anderson? Wasn't on the field very much, man. Like there weren't a lot of pass attempts, and I don't think these big plays were a result of a lack of pressure. So I don't think that's too concerning. I think Caleb Williams will pose a threat. For sure. It's going to be kind of the same type of thing. But I would not be concerned about the lack of pressure from the guys on the edge, at least not yet.
Yeah. It's 19 pass attempts. Richardson can escape. They actually had some good performances, and then Richardson could move the pocket. The first Pierce play is probably the best example of that. He actually slipped and recovered and just chunked that thing for one of the longest air yard passes in the modern football era, what the nerds are telling me. And, so they can do their job and Richardson can make them wrong. And then sometimes they do their job and then Fadakasi and Edwards make them right. And that's what happened with those too.
Yeah, it was very, very, very interesting for sure. What went down there. It's an interesting evaluation of the D line and of the edge. It is SNL Reaction Monday. We're about 800 deep right now. We're going to do this every Monday from 8 to 10. Got a big announcement coming up next week. So we appreciate y'all rolling with us. We got you. It's really everything you need. Seth, if you're an early riser, Seth and Sean from 6 to 8, and then this from 8 to 10 on Monday, you're good. You're smart. You're set to go. Consume our content daily. And you're good to go. It's really all you need if you're being honest with yourself. Texans, the only AFC South team to win in week 1. So they are firmly in first place early on in the season. The Tennessee Titans, they lose to the Texans' next opponent, the Chicago Bears. Will Levis with a couple of interceptions. Jacksonville, 14-0 start to the against the Dolphins. They end up losing on a last-second field goal. I guess you could say Tyreek and company sped things up a little bit and did some catching up there.
The defense really put the cuffs on Trevor Lawrence after that quick start.
They did put the cuffs on Trevor Lawrence. Yes, they did. And Calais Campbell wasn't there to save him.
This is where, if I was the rest of the AFC South, I'm waking up this morning and I'm ill. All 3 games where the other teams lost and the Texans' victory all showcased clear signs of last season. The Jaguars had some moments but didn't have enough. The Colts don't have a quarterback that can be consistent enough for them to get where they need to go. The Titans have a quarterback that'll make some plays and then is the modern Carson Wentz, where he just does something that makes you go, what the hell was that? And then the Texans have an elite dude at the quarterback spot that can just help will you to victory. Like those other three teams in the AFC South, it is the end of last year personified in week 1. And I would be sick if I was the Titans and the Jaguars and the Colts, and I felt like I felt at the end of last season at the beginning of this season after week 1.
Yeah, and I think Jacksonville is going to be a problem. I think the Colts could end up being a problem as well. Tennessee's not a threat. Like that's not a good team. That's not a good quarterback. So I'm not overly concerned about what Tennessee has going on. I think they have an identity crisis going on right now. Like they really, really do. Like were you rebuilding? Were you going all in? They got an awkward situation in Tennessee. Jacksonville, I think, is going to be good. It might be similar to what it was last year, but I think that's a good squad. And Miami's a good squad too. So they ended up pulling out at the end.
Yeah, Trevon Walker had, a couple sacks in that one. But to get the clamps put on you by a Miami defense that doesn't have all their dudes, that would be a really scary situation for me if I was a Jaguars fan.
So football viewing, sometimes it kind of consists of muscle memory. And a lot of times, like over the evolution of a team or the development of an organization, you find yourself kind of looking at things differently. There was a period not too long ago. I'm talking about this like there was a long time ago, where if you're a Texans fan, you're watching extra close on Saturday because you're like, okay, I like this guy from Georgia. I like this guy from this college. I like this guy from this college. Is there any chance the Texans can get this guy? Because you had 2 first-round picks. You were expected to be bad, and you also had Cleveland's first-round picks. So you were watching that. I think that's gone because you expect to draft late in drafts. So that whole vibe is gone. That whole bit is gone. That whole thing is gone. You also would watch the Cleveland Browns because you would have the Cleveland Browns first round pick, and you would kind of hate watch them and root against them for a number of reasons. How do you feel watching Deshaun Watson right now? Like, does it even that? It's almost awkward for me at this point. I know there's a lot of Texans fans. I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm just talking about for me personally. Now that the ship has sailed, and now that you're not directly impacted by what happens in Cleveland, and I think it's already established that was a bad trade. It's just a matter of how bad is it going to get. It's awkward watching this guy play football now. I mean, his swag is stripped. I've never seen someone just completely like the presence, the swag, the charisma. It is gone. And some people say, well, he had off-field issues. I've seen guys with off-field issues return to the field and they at least have the same presence. This guy looks it's rough.
It is hopeless in Cleveland. They are so screwed. He is done. He will never be good again. He will never be good again. And I know there's some Texans fans that always root against him because of the way it finished up. He seems like he seems like a easy guy to root against too, with like the way he operates and the way he moves. Just he seems very mopey. He seems disinterested, and there's already people. You've talked about this. You talked about it in the preseason. I've seen it already this morning around NFL fans. We're a week or 2 away from a imaginary arm injury, and he shuts it down for the rest of the year.
He's got guaranteed bread. Like he doesn't have anything to do. And all he cared about after he signed the contract was money. I said this in 2020, but I do find myself, look, I don't know what the extreme is. He's obviously got some issues and he's a weirdo and all that type of stuff. And or he does some weird things, but man, I don't want to say I'm like, Phil, it's awkward though, for sure. Very awkward.
Yeah.
To say the least. He's broken. BG, he has a message for the fans.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Sunday home opener, getting your seats on time. Be loud. We have to set the tone. LFG Texans. I don't think you have to worry about that. Sim Sam. Shout out to Sim Sam. Look at this. Guys, we respect y'all. We appreciate the super chats. Very, very fun. And this is just the beginning. Big announcement next week. Reaction Monday, every Monday. Sim Sam, shout out to you. Great first show today. I'm going to be here all year. The only place for daily digital Texans coverage. And we're going to be here for you as well. And we're going to be in the mix. We're going to be at the locker room. Not this locker room, although we will be in this locker room on Reaction Monday. And maybe more. We'll see what the announcement is. But we're going to be here for you. We're going to be on the scene. We're going to be covering this squad. Highest rated show in radio last year. It shifted over here. So this is all you really need. Anything else is just leftovers. It's just basically leftovers. It's like doing a sequel with different characters. You're trying to duplicate it. It sucks. I saw that movie Waiters or whatever service with Ryan Reynolds the other day. The one in the restaurant. Waiting. What a great movie that is. I did not even know that.
Yeah. Waiting was in that kind of that era where you like early 2000s and you could be raunchy and funny and you know, you have sexy characters.
But the point is it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And then I heard there was a sequel. There was no Ryan Reynolds. No. That's what, you know. Yeah. But we're here. I say all that to say thank you very much, Sim Sam.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
We appreciate the thumbs up, the likes, the shares, the views, the super chats, everything. It's all fantastic. We appreciate everybody.
And yes, I was late on that one, no doubt. Sometimes it sneaks up on you. Sometimes you have your dark period.
I got this great, hilarious movie. It's called Super Bad. You'll really like this one, Landry.
No, I've seen that. Come on, brother. Come on, brother. By the way, looking ahead to next week, we'll be out there. Texans open as a 6.5-point favorite against the Bears. Damn. When's the last time they were a 7-point favorite at home? And this is a good football team. This is a good-ass football team. Like, the Bears are a good football team. I'm not saying they're great. I'm not saying that they're going to be incredible. This is a good football team, and the Texans are a 7-point favorite over a good football team.
Oh man, I can't imagine the last time they were they 7-point favorites against the Titans last year?
No. Maybe
at home?
No.
Yeah, they were 4-point favorites on that one.
Yeah, no. And they were dogs on the road.
Okay, so
favorite against a good football team.
I will get the answer. I'll turn on the Stoots stats and information department and find this.
Wow. Man, I don't know if you
shut up
on that one.
Shut up.
All right. Appreciate you, man. By the way, I've seen Beer Fest. Guys, if one sneaks up on me, we don't got to sit here. Yeah, old school. Yeah, that's a good one. Let me put that on my list.
Landry, there's this movie about golfers and a country club. It's called Caddyshack. You'll love this. It's great.
Yeah, that's before my time. Did you know that in that movie, though, by the way, Chevy Chase and Bill Murray weren't even talking?
Oh, they weren't speaking to each other?
No, like that scene, that was the only time they saw each other. That scene where he goes in and plays through.
Interesting.
They did not talk. They hated each other. They despised each other, and they were not even talking. So if you watch that movie again, like every time they're on camera together, it makes you kind of appreciate it more because they weren't even talking.
News 50 years, 60 years later, and I didn't know it at the time. So good job by them. Professionals. Sometimes you just got to act like a damn professional.
That's what you do. Anyways, check out Cody Stoots. He's going to be on TV. He's going to be on KPRC. If you missed my appearance on KPRC last week, I was on Pep Talk with Pep Hamilton, Chancellor Johnson, and DJ Bieneme. Check that out. You're going to see our pretty faces all over the place. But the most important thing to remember is subscribe to the Locker Room, subscribe to the Cody Stoots channel on YouTube, subscribe to the Written Word produced by Cody Stoots. It's the best written word you can get, and enjoy this Texans coverage. It's getting fun. We got you covered. The king of Reaction Monday, the king of Texans written word and digital word, the hybrid Cody Stoots. I'm Landry Locker. Big announcement next week. Reaction Monday continues. Still night streaming at 10:30. Nothing changes in our routine. We just added a little bit to the mix, an exclusive collaboration with SNL. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Thanks for coming through. DeMeco Ryans is going to speak. Players are going to speak. We will be all over that, and we will produce content for you.
Eat good, sleep good, be good.
Say it again.
Eat good, sleep good, be good.
One more time, Mike Jones.
Eat good, sleep good, be good.
All right, there you go. Bye-bye.